Affairs, joining us now just to unpack the significance of these reforms. Minister, good morning. Welcome to the South African Morning. Thank you very much for your time. Finally making headway in this visa reform initiative that started under the Sixth administration. How far have you gone this time around to implement the changes?
Good morning, Dan, and good morning to the viewers. It's great to be with you. We've taken a very significant step forward. In fact, I would say this is one of the most pro-jobs and market-friendly reforms that South Africa has seen in decades. The reason why I say that is because there's really two aspects to what we've done. The first one is refining and then launching the remote work visitors visa, which is a great deal for South Africa because this involves people who are working abroad. Other countries are taking on the cost and risk of employing that person. You can think about social security things that country has to pay for in employing that person. But South Africa reaps the benefits because this visa will enable them to come and visit South Africa, spend their money here at South African restaurants, buying South African goods produced by South African producers. And this is really going to be a cash injection into the economy. I was just doing some back of the envelope calculations. If you look at the threshold, it's 650,000 Rand a year that someone must earn abroad in order to qualify for this visa, so that we of course know that they can look after themselves and they don't become a burden on South Africa. But if they spend even just half of that amount and we attract just a few thousand people, we will be talking about billions of rands injected into the economy at no cost. The second one is the points-based system that you've mentioned. That one is going to help us significantly combat corruption in the space of work visa issuing. It's going to introduce greater transparency. And as you say, it's going to reduce red tape for people who need these critical skills to come in. So essentially, Dan, it will be, if you have an occupation on the critical skills list, you will get the 100 points that is required to get this visa. And if you're highly qualified, you've got a good job offer, a good salary offer, you've got years of experience, then you can also accumulate the points that is required. And very importantly, when these visas are adjudicated, the points allocation will be recorded, which then makes it very much easier for us to transparently engage in cases where people are either wrongfully granted a visa because we can see how the points were allocated, or of course, if someone appeals when they were wrongfully denied, it's going to help us a lot to adjudicate those things correctly.
Yeah, Minister, I let you explain it all because it's important. There have been so many questions around it. But just to recap, I think it's important to underline this, and I'll let you do it in your own words. Jobs at the lower end of the spectrum will not be granted visas. Anybody who applies for that. Am I correct?
Well, we've created a much better system of protection for the lower end of the labor market because we're using income. It's a very transparent way and a very watertight way actually to make sure that we protect the lower end of the job market. That threshold in most cases will be, I think, 650,000 Rand a year as well. And the reason for that is quite simple, because we need the skills injection at the top of the economy. We know that's where the great shortage is. The Reserve Bank and Treasury tells us that if we're able to bring in skills at the top, we are able to increase GDP growth very substantially. It's actually, after load shedding, it's the most powerful thing we can do to grow the economy and create jobs. And of course, that income threshold, and there's some bonus points if you get over, for example, 900,000 Rand as an income. That is a signal, of course, to us that someone has a high-end skill because they're being offered a very substantial salary. And then, as I say, that is a way also of protecting the lower end of the jobs market.
Yeah. Just on another matter, Minister, while I have you, before you go, just recently here on ENC, we've heard a lot about identity theft. And you recently, I spoke to you about having cleared the backlog of IDs, for example. I just want to know if part of what you're doing as you try and reform the system and improve the service you're delivering as a Home Affairs, are you zooming into perhaps some corrupt practices that lend themselves to people's identities being stolen? Somebody who comes from somewhere registering themselves as a South African, for example.
Yes, that is an ongoing issue, Dan, and we will shortly be communicating on some of the prosecutions and arrests that we have effected recently to clamp down on this. So there is a lot of work going on in that space, but I think there are a number of factors that we need to be cognizant of. The first one is, of course, that the green ID book is specifically the one that is very vulnerable to fraud. And so that's why we're encouraging people, if they are able to get the smart ID card, because it is a more secure document. And of course, then from our side, we also need to do a lot more to enable people to actually obtain that smart ID card. So we are looking at ways in which we can expand the Home Affairs presence. As you know, the ultimate aim is to deliver Home Affairs at home, which will be really a digital channel through which people can use facial recognition and biometrics to protect their identity, and then also use that channel to order any documents that they may need. But in the meantime, while we're building that system, I think it is important for us to expand our footprint. We have existing partnerships with the banks and retailers, so that is one mechanism that we're looking at. Ultimately, what we want, Dan, is for everyone to be able to get the smart ID. That will help us to have that more secure document as the gold standard in South Africa. But most certainly, while we continue to work on building a better system, we will continue with those prosecutions and arrests. And as I say, we will have some news on that front shortly.
Thank you very much, Home Affairs Minister Dr. Leon Schreiber. There will be some news shortly about people involved in the Home Affairs in the corrupt act of fraudulently giving people IDs, stealing others' IDs.